Welcome, welcome everyone. I am Mr. Goldenbaum, and this is Supremacy 1914. Now, it's been a very eventful day today. A lot's transpired. Our friendly neighbor to the southwest, one of the Mexican states, has decided that the double iron territory that they were able to steal off of our early conquest of Texas just wasn't enough for them. And they've proceeded to march their soldiers straight into our territory. Now, this is actually a quick little clip I took just a little bit earlier. No audio, just so I could show what had kind of happened. They had two larger stacks sitting in Emerson and Los Monos, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not. One of their stacks actually went after our little 1K stack that we had on the border just to kind of scout, keep an eye on things. And, well, they made the mistake of launching the attack for that single 1000K unit, which meant that as they got closer and I moved a little bit further away, they continued to follow that stack. Now, they're also marching in enemy territory, so they're going really slow. I don't have any worries at all that they're going to catch up to me. We were able to buy enough time for the rest of our forces to regroup from Austin and then from Port Lavaca that were finishing up the conquest of Texas. Spoiler alert, Texas is all gone. And they were able to regroup. We got 75,000 with Hank going up against their 6-star Hank with 24,000. And what we were able to do here, and not only did we lure them in and bait them, we were able to march our soldiers closer, closing that gap, stop, and have them come to us. Now, I believe if I just play back a little bit of this clip here, I should have the stats up. So I have the stats right there. Their offensive stats were about 80,000. Our defensive were about 120. Just in general, in terms of infantry, you want to be on the defensive. They have more defense than offense. Let me just pause this here real quick. Which means that even though he has a stronger hero and higher morale troops, we're able to trade a bit more effectively than he can. If you know your opponent's coming right at you, and you want the engagement, right? It's going to be favorable terms, very favorable trades, or you're trying to defeat them in detail. That's okay. Let them come to you. Stop when you get close. They're not paying attention. They're going to keep coming towards you, especially if they're chasing a 1-stack unit, such as we were able to pull off a fun little tactic that our friend YOLO has been using in a few of his games. I'm going to take that trade any day. What we were also able to do is not only when your units are stopped waiting, they're not engaging in the offensive, they become the attacker, we're the defender. The first tick that goes by, we have that favorable engagement. Now, if you select your units and you actually move them just a little bit further, give them an additional order, take a territory, move back, whatever it may be, well, the game thinks that there's an additional action that's being done, and it will start another battle tick. You'll get another one of those bubble pop-ups. So what we were also able to do was shorten that engagement time and cut out an additional hour, because at that point they took more casualties. Their force wasn't as formidable as it was originally. I engaged that tick, I can wipe them clean. After countering the Mexican invasion, we were able to move our troops to the offensive. What we're trying to do right here is capture the Double Steel province. We'll be able to hit it in an hour 36. Day change is an hour and 39. So just barely with the forced march, we'll get there in time. Now, there's always a chance that it'll revolt to the AI, but at this stage in the war, that's a risk I'm willing to take. I just don't want him with the double iron province making well over that 2,400 base threshold for a province to be considered to be contributing to your overall economy, producing more than it kind of consumes there. The other forces are going to hit his double wood province. Now, there is a workshop in the province, so I'm wondering if they may be producing either armored cars, cavalry, or balloons. If I can snag that, before it's completed, then hey, we'll get the province, we'll get the workshops, which I would certainly make anyway in a double wood province. And we'll potentially be able to get those units as well. The plan will be to spread out at that stage and see if we can capture any of these additional territories. Unfortunately, these 3 states have decided to form a coalition, so even if we're able to take out one of these states, we still have the other 2 to contend with. But I'm not going to let that stop us. If we see any kind of weaknesses, especially since they're all bordering themselves, the chances are they're not stationing troops on their own border. If there's a little hole or gap in their defenses, we're going to take it. Ideally, I just want to be able to pick off any of these reinforcements that Hula may have, stop them from regrouping, cause as much economic damage as we can, disrupt any production that we're able to do, and ideally even take over the entire territory. If the other Mexican states have a bit more troops, I'm totally fine with just kind of keeping a defensive line temporarily while the province morale goes up and we're able to regroup and bring additional forces. However, we still have one additional stack to deal with. It looks like they were able to send their Fiona with 17,000 troops. It's a 2-star Fiona, so they're able to recruit 2 infantry units every 3 hours. So I'm surprised they're using them on the offensive. This infantry speed boost bonus is only active in their own territory, so they're not really getting anything. And I mean, the thing about Fiona, I think they're the strongest hero in the game, but they're essentially just a regular infantry unit. I don't think there's any situation where you would want them on the front line other than potentially utilizing that vision boost if you're kind of bringing them right up to the front line. But you don't really want to be using them to spearhead your offensives. So ideally what's going to happen here is they're going to take the province. They will either stop, which will buy us additional time, or they will continue to move on either to Austin, Colorado City. As you can see here, we have additional forces that are regrouping. We were able to finish off the AI for the most part in this area. We have our ally here who's going to take the last remaining province. We had units here that were attacking Winsboro. We were able to defend it and take them out, but we will leave the units here for the Dathik. I don't want the province revolting. Whereas these 2,000 units, we have left the province. They're going to arrive in about 2.5 hours, but the thing is, our allies will arrive in about 46. I just don't see this 2K stack surviving against the 17 stack. They'll be able to... Just looking at the time here, 46:05, 46:17. In theory, they'll be able to get a few ticks in. So even if they don't survive in the first wave, we still got the second wave to hopefully give them a chance to capture the province. And then we don't really have to garrison this area. And we can start to consolidate and get ready to take out the opponent's forces here that are attacking Lubbock. One additional clip I did want to share, just during the original attack, again, took a little quick video just so I could bring this up again. This was a good tip trick session just to kind of share some of the tactics that were going on here. So by attacking the bordering AI provinces, we were able to finally lure the AI out of their capital and their 2 fortified provinces to attack us. So you saw in the actual gameplay, a small force was hitting Mabank. Small force ended up going to the capital from the Timpson area, but the 16 stack actually decided to march against us. So again, we were able to pause the troops before an engagement, have them come to us, take the defensive bonus, especially with the armored cars, wipe out most of their infantry, not all, and then take that same armored car group, reselect the attack, just kind of refresh it, re-engage it, and we were able to get a second tick to go in time, which would normally take an additional hour to happen instantly. We were able to wipe out the unit. We were able to capture the province, the capital right away. and give us a huge morale boost. So something just to kind of consider here. Our ally has decided to go on the offensive, so they will be wrapping up Timpson. They were able to take a few provinces from Texas, and with the majority of their force, they hit Kelso, were able to capture it without any difficulties. One small stack sent over to Ackerman. I believe they will take it before the day ticks, so again, they have a chance for the province to revolt, but if it doesn't, well, then it's going to be theirs for the most part for the rest of the game, and they'll be able to get that 10% or so daily morale increase and get that kind of ticker started right away and not have to worry about garrisoning it. The main force is going to hit Jackson, so if this province does stay alive, it's going to get the additional 10% boost. I don't believe that these armies, if they're going to hit before the day tick at 10,000, I think at most they'll take out 6 to 7,000, so it's going to require 2 ticks, so they're not going to be able to capture that before the day change. Same thing goes with this other engagement down here. But if they're able to hit these border provinces, get access to the coal, steel, and fish, they're in a great spot. Mississippi has actually been going up against the AI here, and I believe they've been losing pretty badly at that. They've already lost 22,000 troops and lost a province, so he should be able to mop this up rather quickly, and it'll put him in a good position here to either go through northern or southern Alabama and reach the Florida-Georgia line. Now, what's interesting is Florida has decided to go ahead and get himself into 3 wars, the big one being with Georgia, and has proceeded to lose 60,000 troops. That means he's got, what, at most 40,000 troops alive, and judging by the, I'm assuming, lack of recruiting offices, that's all he's got. He's got 40,000. Now, 40,000, a good chunk of it could be here. If he was able to take out a 10 stack from the AI, he's probably got at least 20. So you know you've got 20 here, so I can't see him having more than 20,000 in general. What I would like to see is for all of these units to kind of board up on some ships and just sail over there right away. He might be able to sack the capital, take the oil, maybe a few of these other provinces before Georgia. Even if he doesn't get to hold them, he'll get a lot of the boost, especially that capital boost with the cash infusion. But it's up to him. It would also give him some good intel, potentially sail around and kind of see what Georgia has on the back end, threaten his coast. But as long as he's able to wrap up Mississippi here rather quickly, position his troops by going through any of these AIs, even if Georgia takes over these territories, he should have a lot of provinces that he would be able to attack if, let's say, he took southern Alabama here. Looks like there's a few other smaller developments. I mean, New York or Pennsylvania's chipping away at New York. New York lost to the AI. North Carolina's chipping away against Virginia. Kentucky lost to the Indiana AI. Michigan's cleaning up northern Indiana. Minnesota was able to take over northern Wisconsin. Quebec is cleaning up one of the other Canadian provinces, as is eastern Quebec. I don't see this coalition here as a major threat. There's been a lot of back and forth here with Northern California. They've been able to... Oh, wow. It looks like they've been able to entirely clean up all of the forces of Southern California. They only have one province to show for it, as this would have been the 10th province of Southern California, which leads me to believe that Southern California was most likely just suiciding into them. If one of these Mexican states finally conquers that last province, I could see them continuing all the way. If they do, that would create a border between Northern California and the Mexican coalition, which may work well for our situation. If we can get one of these states concentrated somewhere else while we mop up one of them, we may be able to either attack them from behind or wrap up their other ally. It looks like there's also been some activity here in the south. Again, that's another Mexican state that is not part of the coalition that may be able to potentially threaten, let's say, a West Mexico in this situation. Fiona has been absolutely great. I think we've been able to churn out most of the units you see here, other than the two armored cars. 35,000 troops. It has been expensive. The 450 fish that she would normally utilize isn't that bad, especially compared to what you would normally have to pay for the barracks anyway. But it's a 6,000 in cash. That would make it more expensive than the barracks. But again, it's 3 hours for 4,000 troops. I mean, this is the best hero in the game, and this is only 5 stars. If we take a look at her, if you get her all the way to 15, being able to deploy 8,000 troops in 4 deployment cycles, you'll be able to spawn like 32,000 troops. That's a huge army, especially in the first day. You couple that with a Lawrence or any other kind of heroes that'll be kind of coming out in the later stages. I mean, that's a massive fighting force in just that's deployable in just 24 hours. In the Northeast, we believe Missouri is just kind of skirmishing with one of the Iowa AIs, as is South Dakota. They've pulled their Hank from the border. I did end up fortifying the province. I did move the armored cars down south to join, well, most of the armored cars down south to join in the offensives. And then I am building 2 additional balloons because I do want additional intel in the area here with Missouri. I certainly want to know what's happening here in the Mexican states. But Utah here has, for the most part, cleaned up their entire conquest of Colorado. So we have a level 2 fort kind of coming online here. We've been able to group up about 19,000 or so infantry plus an additional armored car. We're hoping that this will be deterrence enough. We can always quickly reinforce from some of our forces here in the Grove, though not ideal. And then if we're able to mop up the Mexican offensive into Texas, these are also forces that will be able to move north. What you can see here is we actually have right-of-way from the AI. I believe we're able to get right-of-way access from 2 of them, one of them being West Kansas over here. And how were we able to do that? Well, all we did is change our relationship to share map with every single AI country for the most part. And, well, it looks like 2 of them gave me the right-of-way. In this situation, we may be able to take forces and launch a surprise attack if they're grouping up on our border and not necessarily leaving some of these other areas defended. Same goes over here for El Paso. If we kind of hit a stalemate over here with these other Mexican states, we may be able to take a small force, move them through, go through El Paso, and hit some of their other provinces with higher morale and most of their production. Our biggest and most immediate threat at the moment are the Mexican states, followed by, I would say, Utah. They've had a pretty quick expansion here. They're right on our border. Third would probably be the North Carolina player. Looks like they've been able to take 2 provinces at this point, and there's not really much stopping them from taking the remaining provinces. They could prove to be a potential ally in the future, but we'll have to see how this plays out. Our resources have, for the most part, stabilized. We were able to get 2 barracks online for future cavalry production, but with how little cash we've been able to save up and our food income not being the best, we're just kind of trying to keep this relatively balanced. I want a little bit more fish coming in for the Fiona deployments. Material production is positive. We are actually changing our allocations here to use up a bit more steel. We want to be able to get 10,000 lumber by the day tick for day 3. I think I will actually max this out at the moment, as I would want to be able to build 2 railroads in our food, kind of boost up our food production as well as our energy. Although our energy is just barely positive, I would like to save as much oil as I can, maybe create a little bit of a surplus in coal, so we're able to continue financing railroads and continuing to increase our resource production. But our resource situation is not great. If you look at our average morale, we're at around 72%. I want this to go higher. Now, we've conquered a bunch of provinces. Each province will lower our morale. And each one of these conquests does take a few days to actually be a net positive. I believe it's around probably 60%. Because at 45%, this is nowhere near 2,400. This is 56%. This is getting there. So it's probably closer to about 65%. Now, the exception being the double resource provinces. I mean, this one's only at 45%. And it's already has a huge surplus of over 1,000 resource production. If we'll lose this, it's not the end of the world. The morale was so low. But these 2 provinces right here are going to be a huge boon. We'll be able to use the additional materials to fund these railroads, help our units kind of walk across. I'd love to build more railroads in Texas. It's got some of the largest provinces in the game south of Canada. And this is going to help our conquest that much more. And you can't forget about the double coal. I definitely would like the double coal. We have more double wood, double oil. I think this is one of the few double oil provinces here in the south, and I certainly want that. And if we get the last Mexican state, we'll be able to get 2 double fish. Looks like in the south we can get more materials, a lot more materials, a bit more food. And then these other provinces aren't really going to be that lucrative, especially after their capitals have been sacked and the morale bonus is kind of gone, along with the cash. They're just single provinces. I mean, yes, the 2 oils, I might go for that. But, I mean, at that point, I want to focus on territories and regions with the double resource production. And that's where most of your production will come from. Conquering all these small AI miners will be nice, but once that aggressive expansion penalty starts kicking in, it's going to be more of a detriment than it will be an asset. So look at this guy. He's got 2 workshops, and all he's been able to produce is 1 balloon. YOLO, where are your cars? Where's your cavalry? I mean, I don't see anything coming out. I mean, if you were able to crank out a few cavalry, use that for one of these offensives, that would have been massive. A few armored cars, especially in a situation where you're trying to take undefended provinces, you'd be able to reach that significantly faster. And if you just couple a few armored cars into a lot of these offensives, yes, armored cars aren't an offensive units. However, they have a decent amount of hit points. 60 hit points in this situation. That's 3 times the amount of infantry. And as this damage is spread out, they're able to minimize casualties. Because if an armored car goes down to, 10, 5 hit points even, and the battle's over at day tick, if you're in your own territory, that's going to continue to go back up. Whereas infantry are, if once their morale goes down, especially when you're on the offensive, it's not really going back up. So it helps preserve infantry, and then it helps kind of preserve your power just in general as the day ticks go by, and you're able to kind of recoup those hit points. And they're always a great defensive unit. If somebody decides to attack you, they're fast, you can get there quickly, you get that defensive bonus, you couple that with like an Orhan, and you're sailing. And with that, thank you all for watching. I'm hoping our offensive is a success, but if you would like to find out, please join us again. We'll see you next time.